Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Louise Huber begins now.
Good evening, everyone. The Anglican Church has outlined its plans to raise additional funds to compensate victims of historical sexual abuse. It needs to find an additional $15 million to meet its obligations, but there are concerns that might come at the expense of some key services.
For victims of historical sexual abuse, there's no amount of money that can ease their trauma, but the Anglican Church hopes to help ease some of the burden.
What we're trying to do is be transparent and say, own up to what happened in our church. We continue to apologise to people for the hurt that they experienced at the hands of people who they should have been able to trust.
Now needing to raise an additional $15 million to meet its commitments under the National Redress Scheme and civil litigation, revised up to an estimated $23 million. It follows a church sell-off which saw 73 properties put on the market.
Some of the funds that are directed directly into parish ministry will be reduced, and so there'll be some effects of the ministries we can support in local parishes around Tasmania as a result.
Services, including chaplaincy within hospitals and prisons, also likely to be impacted.
I think it's disappointing that they're pulling funding out of some what seem like quite useful services, and I don't think survivors should be the ones to be left carrying the weight of that.
The church expects at least 165 people will come forward, and with the Commission of Inquiry into Child Sexual Abuse set to be held in the state this year, some believe it could encourage more people to come forward with their stories.
The more comfortable they are with speaking about it, I think you'll see more and more people coming forward and talking about their experiences.
It's great that the Anglican Church is following this initiative in Tasmania, and I hope that it operates as a guide or as a guide for the other institutions to be able to follow a similar path.
Meg Sides, 7 Tasmania News.
Story causes distress. You can contact the Sexual Assault Support Service on 1800 RESPECT. The Prime Minister has pledged millions of dollars in funding for young mothers as he toured the state. Scott Morrison visited a childcare centre in Launceston and found some time to join in on the fun and games.
The Prime Minister and Premier going head to head on the pool table. From pub games to child's play.
So do you like play Play-Doh? Do you do that very much? Do you do it here? Do you get to do it at home?
I think Mr Morrison's Play-Doh has left me for dead.
Visiting the Ravenswood Child and Family Centre on day 2 of his Tassie tour, Scott Morrison announced $6 million for the Brave Foundation.
We have countless expecting and parenting teams knocking on our door. This funding will allow us to open the doors wide, and it will help us to empower over 1,000 young women.
Parents may not be able to always have the opportunity to continue to pursue their own education and skills opportunities and things like that. But these programs are helping people realise that.
Once a young mother herself, Brave founder Bernadette Black has long supported others facing that daunting situation, her work stretching back years.
They have high hopes for their dreams, aspirations and careers, but often they have not known how to reach for them.
Wasn't ever sure how I was going to be able to achieve that as a young mum, and she showed me and inspired me to continue on, and I went on to university and finished my degree, and now I'm a teacher.
The PM wrapping up what some had termed a marginal seats tour today. Morrison may venture further south next time he's in the state. Announced today, Susie Bauer is to stand as the party's Lions candidate at the next federal election. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
The state government has unveiled incentives to boost the number of hire cars available in Tasmania. $1,000 grants are being offered to help cover the upfront insurance costs required to enlist for hire car programs.
I think it's fantastic that the government is utilising Tasmanians' idle assets that are just sitting around doing absolutely nothing, instead of maybe paying a big corporate a big handout.
A shortage of hire cars has plagued efforts to attract more tourists in recent months. With only 5,100 in the state, exorbitant prices have been charged by some companies. Tasmanians have gathered today to honour those who served in a terrifying battle at the height of World War II. The Battle of Crete, said to be a significant moment in our history, forging a close relationship between Australia and Greece.
Laying wreaths and pausing to remember here at Hobart's Cenotaph. Tributes flowing for soldiers who served in a 13-day battle on the Greek island of Crete in May 1941.
History is important, that we keep it going, we keep it alive. It's important for us to portray the message to our children so they can continue also, they can remember, so they can also honour.
It's important to remember all those who have fought and died, specifically in the freedom of their countries.
Nazi Germany undertaking the first mainly airborne invasion in military history in the midst of World War II. Allied forces, including Australian and New Zealand troops, aiding to defend the island.
The bonds that were forged on the battlefields in 1941 between the Australian and Greek people still remain strong today.
The Battle of Crete actually influenced a lot of Greeks to travel to Australia and like my parents.
Community members, with some dressed in traditional Cretan clothing, paying their respects on the 80th anniversary and sharing heroic stories from the past.
I come every year and just lay a wreath in honour of my dad, who fought on Crete, and he was captured by the Germans on Crete and spent 3.5 years in a prison camp.
I've come to honour my father, who served in the 2nd AIF, 2nd 8th Battalion.
While reflecting on a dark period of history, also for Cretan civilians.
It must have been a difficult time. My mother talks about, you'll never know what it's like not to be able to have food and eat.
And there was sacrifice made not just by the military people, but also the civilians on the island as well, put up a great deal of sacrifice in that battle.
Underneath the Australian and Greek flags, lest we forget. Ruby Kamane, 7 Tasmania News.
The Tasmanian Filipino community is celebrating a significant historical milestone and close friendships within our country, hosting a feast full of cultural delicacies and family activities, marking 75 years of diplomatic relations between Australia and the Philippines.
It is a recognition, I think, of also the migrant story as well, coming from the Philippines with nothing and building a life here in Australia, which is absolutely phenomenal.
Celebrations will continue over the coming weeks. A big day of TSL football has seen Clarence and Tigers record massive victories against lowly opposition. The big upset of the round coming in a fiery Friday night clash at Utah Stadium as the undefeated reigning premiers were toppled by the Baby Bombers.
No team had been within 8 goals of the reigning premiers Launceston, and that looked unlikely to change when they found a 22-point lead in the first quarter against North Launceston.
Music a coast-to-coast goal! Wow!
The crosstown rivalry boiling over.
And he's taken out Edmonds, I think, and it's on.
A spirited fight back saw the Bombers kick ahead in the third quarter.
It looks pretty good off the boot, and he raises the fist.
And holding on for the final siren.
They're home! The Northern Bombers in the upset of the season.
Winners by 15 points and showing that despite key losses at the end of last year, they're firmly in the hunt. That wasn't the only derby on the cards this round, with Lauderdale and Clarence facing off. The Roos hoping to edge closer to the runaway top 2. Lauderdale edging closer to a full squad, with Bryce Walsh and Alan Christensen returning. After a scrappy first quarter, Clarence pulled away in a 7-1 second term. The Roos midfield all over their Eastern Shore rivals. The Bombers were no match, with the Roos eventual winners by 76. After a promising start to the season, the Tigers had been on the slide, losing 3 of their past 4. A chance to rebound coming against North Hobart. What was a 13-point lead at quarter time blew out as the Demons scored only one more goal for the afternoon. 6 goals from Tyler Carter, helping the Tigers to a 109-point win, retaining 4th spot on the ladder. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
To the Super Netball now, and the Collingwood Magpies have pulled off their second win of the season. Hosting the Queensland Firebirds at the Silverdome, fans were treated to a spectacular manoeuvre by Ash Brazil, just managing to keep the ball in play.
Ash Brazil, that has got to be the play of the game!
The Magpies winning by 3 points, 68-65. They'll face off against the New South Wales Swifts next week.
Good evening. -4 was the overnight minimum, and that was at Fingal today. Hobart recorded the state's high of 21 along with Bushy Park, Launceston just 16 and Burnie and Devonport both 15. Lyowini 10 degrees, 15 at Low Head, 16 for St Helens, Smithton and Maria Island. King and Flinders Islands both 17, 18 at the Friendly Beaches, 19 at Strawn and 20 for Grove. Today, stratocumulus accumulated over parts of the north and Midlands, with some high-level cloud in the southwest. Wisps of high-level cloud about Queensland and also WA, with a middle-level cloud band over southern WA and waters to the south. A narrow frontal band can be seen approaching Tasmania. Tomorrow the high persists over the Tasman Sea. A strong cold front is over and south of WA, with a secondary front to the west. Now a look to coastal waters, variable winds 15 to 20 knots with seas to 2 metres. Partly cloudy in Hobart tomorrow, 18, 19 and partly cloudy at Richmond. A mostly sunny day ahead for Ouse, 17 degrees. Morning fog in the north before becoming a mostly sunny day, Launceston 17, 16 in Devonport and Deloraine 15. Burnie 16, partly cloudy, Strawn and Curry both mostly sunny with 18. Mostly sunny in St Helens and Swansea 17 and Whitemark also 17, a sunny day there. Looking ahead now to Monday, fine until light showers develop about elevated areas in the north. Tuesday, light showers about the north increasing and extending statewide during the afternoon. And Wednesday, showers about the north and west, light showers possible elsewhere. Showers increasing in Perth tomorrow, 19, high cloud in Adelaide 24, 24 and partly cloudy in Brisbane, and a mostly sunny 20 degrees for Melbourne. And clear skies right now across the state. Hobart 14, Launceston 10, Devonport 9. And Lou, it's always a good day ahead when no weather warnings are issued.
We have been quite lucky the last few days. Thanks for that, Carmen. And that's all your news for now for this Saturday evening. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.